Good morning, this is Howard from Cycle Van. Our Sprinter website, sprinterworld.com, is dedicated to Sprinter accessories of all kinds. One of the items on the website is a window with the venting sections that we're going to be putting into this Sprinter. We've taken out the factory bonded glass already. We have a neat little cutout tool that takes that out, but there are several methods of doing that. We figured we'd show you how to deal with the leftover strip of urethane because you have to get this off at least down to a film thickness. So I've started by putting this brand new razor blade on a real shallow angle, and I'm just gliding across. You got a nice, it's like a sweet spot where it just glides nice and leaves very thin film. You're going to do this without scratching the vehicle's paint. There's a very shallow angle on this razor blade. It's pretty much almost resting flat against the vehicle's body. Just cut it off here. And right now you just got a film thickness, almost, probably not even half as thick as a sheet of loose leaf paper left over. And that's what you want to end up with, because if you try to go any deeper, you're going to scratch the paint. Continuing on our installation on this flipper window, venting window on the Sprinter. So we showed you how to take off the urethane bead that was left over from the dismounting of the original glass. And we're ready for the next step. And that is taking into account how to deal with the gap between the two pieces of metal that comprise the Sprinter body. So you have the outside skin and you have the inside metal, and they're bonded together with spot welds, and there's a little bit of a seam sealer in, but there's some voids. You can see them. You got one here, you got one here, and there's a few up here too. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a bead of silicone, and we're just going to press it into this trough where these two pieces of metal meet, up and around from about halfway all the way around the top. Now, if you have gaps at the bottom, you can do the same thing. What we're doing though is we're pressing the silicone into these little voids, and we're going to smooth it out so that it's pretty much got no profile whatsoever. And they're going to let it cure for a little bit before we put the window in. So let me proceed with this. I got a silicone, black silicone. This happens to be what they call neutral cure silicone. It has no acetic acid, that vinegary smell, but you could use regular silicone, it's fine. And we're going to press this bead into this groove. Put a little bit extra into that opening there. We're not getting messy with it. We're going to stay nice and neat. Neat is the way to go. Okay. This particular Sprinter has no voids down on the bottom, so we're just going to concentrate on the upper half. All right. So we're putting it in this seam, and we're going to press it flat in a second. And remember, we're not blobbing tons of this in. Just enough to get the job done. Okay, giving a little extra where the void is, coming down, a little extra where the void is, and that's about it on here. So press it in, laying it down nice and flat. I don't want any kind of blobs that can make little bumps. Nice and smooth. And I want a minimum of silicone, really. I don't want a lot of silicone. All right, so that's going to skin up. We got other things to do in the meantime. We'll take care of those other things while this skins up and kind of gets a skin on it. We got other things to do. So I've just sealed the voids between the two pieces of metal, and we're going to proceed with the rest of the installation. We're proceeding with the installation of the venting glass on the sprinter that's outside, and we've made some preparations on the body of the sprinter, and now we got preparations on the window. What kind of preparations are we talking about? Well, since we're changing factory glass to a tip-out glass, the whole size and the conditions that the van have are already presented to us. And what we need to do to make a better installation is to take this rubber gasket that comes attached to this window frame already, and we're going to bring it out as far as we can. If you look, there's a gap here. When this is installed at the factory, it's all kind of crooked and wavy, which isn't really a problem if you're doing an installation in a van where you're cutting the hole. But in the case of the van where the hole is already there from the previous window, the hole size is a tad larger. So we're going to take this rubber gasket off and move it out. I actually let it hang off about a 30-second. The reason I'm doing that is because I want as wide a footprint as I can on the body so that this gasket seals properly. Now, this is a little hard to start. I picked this off before and I heated it with the heat gun, and I was able to pull it off. And the heat gun gives you a little help. Pull on it firmly, but don't tear it, and heat it. Some glue will stick to the frame, some will stick to the tape. That's okay. All right, so we're going to peel around the corner. Corners are particularly important. So again, you're going to put this right back down, letting it hang off the edge a little tiny bit. All right. I can wait for a second. So basically what you do is you're going to end up hanging off, and you can see quite a bit of a difference from where it used to be. We're moving ahead with our venting window installation, and we're preparing the inside ring, the clamp ring. This is the metal ring that draws everything together. It pulls the window against the truck and compresses the gasket, which we just relocated. So we're going to lay this on we have the cushions here. We're laying this face down on cushion. You could use a blanket on a workbench, what have you. And you're going to lay this ring back on the window, and you're going to lay it such that it's evenly spaced. You don't want to push it too high, too low. What I mean by that is these screws are going to go in this groove. They're going to go through the trim ring into this groove. So set the trim ring on and peek through all the little holes and make sure you can see the groove. We did this already. We ended up centering it, and we're happy with the result. Then we're going to drill two holes here, an 1/8-inch hole on either side of this split. And we're going to put a couple of screws in to hold it in place, and then we're going to drill our screws. So, 1/8-inch drill bit. We're centered. We like where we are. I like a fingernail's thickness between these two. Right here, little gap, fingernail thickness. I'm going to... Okay. I'm going to put a screw in, a couple of threads. And then, again, the fingernail's thickness of a gap. I'm talking a thin fingernail thickness, just so it has room to move. When you start off with a nice new drill bit, it makes a huge difference. So you could spend $3 and buy a nice 1/8-inch drill bit. Okay. All right, so I got these two screws in. I'm going to put a screw at these two top corner locations. Before I do, I want to make sure that I'm still centered. I see the groove, I see the groove, I see the groove, and that's groovy. Went ahead and did the rest of the screws, put them in. Now you got threaded holes all around. The reason why this is significant is because you don't want to be fighting with this window when it's time to fasten it in and finish. You're going to have a helper hold this window in from the outside, helper or helpers. You're going to put this window in place, and another person is going to come in and screw the frame in. And the holes are all going to line up. It's a beautiful thing. So all your hard work is done on the workbench, and putting it in has made it a whole lot easier. So we got some metal chips from the holes we drilled, and we're going to clean all of them up. We don't want any of them there. Some are snuck behind the gasket, some are in this track. So we're going to vacuum them up. And just get them off.